The war room aboard the USS Defiance sat in darkness except for the blue glow of tactical displays. Admiral Marcus Gray stood before the screens, watching red dots move across a map of human space. Each red dot represented a Vulcan battleship. Each red dot meant death coming toward Earth. 4 months. That was how long the Vulcan Confederation had been attacking human colonies. In 4 months, they had taken 17 worlds. 17 places where humans lived, worked, and raised families. 17 places that were now gone. Gray's fleet had lost 32 ships trying to stop them. 32 ships meant thousands of dead sailors. The Admiral could see the faces of the ship captains who died in battle. He could see them because they appeared in his mind every time he closed his eyes. Captain Patricia Walsh had died defending Colony 7. Captain Henry Moore had died at the Battle of Kepler Station. Captain Eleanor Price had died protecting a refugee convoy. The Vulcans were not human. They looked like walking crystals, hard and jagged, with intelligence that burned cold and sharp. They did not negotiate. They did not offer surrender terms. They simply attacked, destroyed, and moved on to the next target. Gray's communications officer, Lieutenant David Cole, spoke from his station. His voice was steady, but his hands shook. "Admiral, the government transmission is being decoded now." "Put it on screen," Gray said. The face of Secretary of Defense Helen Grant appeared on the main display. She looked tired. She looked like someone who had not slept in weeks. Her eyes were red from crying, though she tried to hide it. "Admiral Gray," she began, "I am transmitting the order you hoped would never come. The government has voted. We are ordering a full retreat to Earth. All remaining fleet assets are to return to home space. We will begin negotiations with the Vulcan Confederation for terms of surrender." Gray felt something break inside his chest. Surrender. The word sat heavy in his mouth like poison. "The Vulcans have made it clear they want Earth's resources," Grant continued. "They have offered to spare the population if we surrender quietly. We have decided to accept. You have 72 hours to gather all remaining human forces and retreat to Earth orbit. After that time, any ship that is not returned will be assumed lost and abandoned." The screen went dark. Gray turned to face his officers. 23 people stood in that war room. 23 officers who had fought alongside him, who had lost friends and family in this war, who believed that humanity could still win. "I will not accept this," Gray said. His voice did not shake. "I will not tell my people that we surrendered to beings who came to our space and murdered our children." Colonel Frank Harrison stepped forward. He was the head of Gray's ground forces, a soldier since he was 18 years old. "Sir, with respect, the government has ordered us to retreat. We are military. We follow orders." "I know what we are," Gray said. "I also know what happens to soldiers who surrender to beings like the Vulcans. We die anyway. They keep us alive just long enough to extract information, then they kill us. I have read the reports from the colonies they took." Gray moved to the communications console. His hands moved across the controls. His officers did not stop him. They knew what he was about to do. "Cole, I need you to send out a distress signal. Not to the government. Not to any living fleet. I need you to send it to every frequency we have. I need you to send it into dead space where nothing and nobody could possibly hear it." Cole hesitated for one moment. Then he moved to his console and began typing commands. "What are you sending, sir?" Cole asked. "The coordinates of Installation 7, Gray said, "and the reactivation code." The war room went completely silent. Gray could hear his own heartbeat. "Sir," Harrison said slowly, "that facility has been abandoned for over 100 years. It is a myth, a story we tell recruits about how smart our ancestors were. It is not a myth, Gray said. I have read the classified files. Installation 7 exists. It was built 200 years ago as a last resort. The government knows it exists. They know what is in there. And they have ordered radio silence on the topic since the first Vulcan attack. What is in there? Cole asked. Humanity's last hope, Gray said. Send the signal? Cole's fingers moved across the console. The distress message went out on all frequencies, broadcasting into the vast darkness of space. The message contained coordinates, a location buried deep beneath the Pacific Ocean. The message contained a single code word that had been passed down through families for 200 years. A word that meant only one thing: wake up. Nobody in the war room believed that signal would be answered. It was the action of a desperate man sending a message into nothing, hoping for a miracle that would never come. But Gray was not the kind of man who gave up. On the other side of human space, in an Vulcan command ship, Vexter watched the tactical displays showing human fleet movements. The Vulcan commander was 3 meters tall, his body formed of sharp crystalline structures that caught light like broken glass. His mind worked in ways human minds could never work. He saw patterns and probabilities with absolute clarity. To Vexter, this war was already over. The humans had lost because they could not fight. Their weapons were inferior. Their numbers were smaller. Their will was weaker. The Vulcan Confederation had conquered 3 other species before humanity. Those species had fought hard. Those species had died hard. But humanity was different. Humanity broke faster. Humanity gave up faster. Humanity was already talking about surrender. Vexter moved to the observation window of his command ship. Below, Earth rotated slowly through space. A blue world. A world full of resources. A world that would soon belong to the Vulcan Confederation. Begin the invasion sequence, Vexter commanded. Prepare all landing forces. In 72 hours, we will occupy the primary human settlement. In 1 week, Earth will be ours. His officers moved to obey. They had no doubt. They had no fear. They had never met a species that could stop them. Back aboard the USS Defiant, Admiral Gray made his final orders. He ordered all remaining human ships to jump into fast space and return to Earth orbit. He ordered the government to begin evacuation procedures. He ordered his people to prepare for the worst, but he did not believe in the worst. He believed in the signal he had sent. He believed in the stories his grandfather had told him. Stories about weapons so terrible that they had been hidden away. Locked in sleep beneath the Earth dot as the Defiant jumped toward home space, Gray stood alone in the command deck. Around him, the stars wheeled through the darkness. Somewhere in that darkness, his signal was traveling. Somewhere in that darkness, maybe, just maybe, someone was listening. And beneath the Pacific Ocean, in a facility that the world had forgotten, ancient machines waited for a signal that would not come for another 3 days. Machines that would change everything. Machines that had been waiting for 200 years to wake up and remind the galaxy what humanity was truly capable of. Captain Lisa Webb had spent the last 30 years watching over a place that nobody believed mattered anymore. Installation 7 sat 3 kilometers beneath the Pacific Ocean, carved into solid rock, sealed away from the world above. The facility had been built 200 years ago by human engineers who understood something that the modern world had forgotten. The future was dangerous, and you had to prepare for it. Webb walked through the corridors of the installation alone. Her footsteps echoed on the metal floor. The facility was massive, extending for almost 5 kilometers in every direction. But only Webb and 2 maintenance technicians lived here now. The rest of the world had stopped caring about this place decades ago. The facility existed for one reason only. Deep in its lower levels, separated by radiation shielding and electromagnetic locks, sat 15 massive war machines. Dreadnoughts. Each one was longer than 300 meters. Each one carried weapons that had been refined and perfected over 2 centuries of secret development. These were not the kind of weapons that modern navies used. Modern weapons were fast and accurate but limited. These weapons were different. They operated on principles that the rest of human space did not even know existed. They were designed by people who understood that one day the galaxy might come for humanity. And when that day arrived, humanity would need to be ready. Webb checked the power systems. Everything was stable. The fusion reactors buried deep beneath the facility hummed quietly, feeding power to systems that had been sleeping for over 100 years. She had maintained them faithfully, even though everyone said the job was pointless. Even though the government had cut funding. Even though people whispered that Installation 7 was just a waste of taxpayer money. Her family had served as custodians of Installation 7 for 200 years. Her great-grandmother had been the first captain here. Her grandmother had served for 40 years. Her mother had served for 35 years. And now Lisa continued the tradition, living in this metal tomb beneath the ocean, maintaining machines that would probably never be used. Webb did not mind the loneliness. She understood the importance of her work. Every system she checked, every reading she recorded, every maintenance cycle she completed was an act of responsibility toward the future. She was a guardian of something precious. The alarm started at exactly 1400 hours. The sound was sudden and sharp, a sound that Webb had never heard before outside of training simulations. The red light above the main console began to flash. Warning klaxons echoed through the corridors. Webb's heart jumped into her throat. She moved toward the main communications console. Her hand shook as she entered her authorization code. The screen came to life, displaying an incoming signal. The signal bore a military frequency. The signal carried a valid reactivation code. The signal came from Admiral Marcus Gray. Webb read the message. The Vultans. An invasion force. 72 hours before Earth was attacked. She looked at the reactivation code one more time. It matched the one in her family records. The one that had been passed down through generations. The one that only a few people in the entire government even knew existed. Webb made her decision. She moved to the main control panel and began inputting commands. The facility responded slowly at first, like something waking from a long sleep. Power systems that had been dormant for a century began to wake. Lights came on in sections of the facility that had been dark for decades. The fusion reactors increased output, feeding power to systems that had been waiting. Webb's voice came through the intercom system, calm and clear despite the fear running through her body. All personnel report to the main control center immediately. Installation 7 is now in full activation mode. The 2 maintenance technicians, older men named George and Patrick, arrived within minutes. They understood immediately what was happening. They had trained for this day, just like Webb had. They had never believed it would actually come. The reactivation code is valid? George asked. Yes, Webb said. From Admiral Gray himself. The Vultans are coming. We have less than 3 days. Patrick moved toward the weapons control station. His movements were steady, practiced. Then we had better make sure these machines are ready to fight. What followed was a blur of activity. Webb and her team worked through the night, running diagnostics, checking systems, bringing the dreadnoughts online one at a time. Each machine was a miracle of engineering, built with technology that had been kept secret from the rest of human space for 2 centuries. The dreadnoughts existed in 3 locations. 5 of them were stored in a hidden facility in lunar orbit. 5 more were hidden in cloaked positions throughout the solar system. The remaining 5 were in various locations scattered across human space, each one waiting for the signal that would bring them to life. As each dreadnought came online, Webb felt the weight of what was about to happen. These machines were built for one purpose: to end threats to humanity. They had never been tested in actual combat. They had only ever been simulations and training exercises. Now, in less than 3 days, they would face a real enemy. Webb accessed the central communication system and began broadcasting to all the dreadnoughts simultaneously. The machines responded, their systems activating, their weapons warming up. Navigation systems locked onto coordinates that had been uploaded by Admiral Gray's signal. Target acquisition systems came online. The Death Fleet, hidden for 200 years, was waking up. Webb looked at the main tactical display. It showed every human ship currently in space, marked in blue. It showed every Vulcan ship, marked in red. The red dots were coming closer. There were hundreds of them. She moved to the communication terminal and began recording a message. Her voice was steady and clear. "This is Captain Lisa Webb of Installation 7. The reactivation sequence is complete. 15 dreadnoughts are now active and ready for combat operations. All autonomous systems are online. All weapons are armed. We are prepared to defend Earth." She sent the message out on every military channel. Laundry channel. The message went to Admiral Gray. It went to the government. It went to every surviving human fleet. It told them that they were not alone. It told them that help was coming below. In the reactor chambers deep beneath the installation, the machines of war hummed with power. 200 years of preparation had come to this moment. 200 years of sacrifice by people who understood that one day, everything would depend on what they left behind. Webb stood in the control center, surrounded by screens showing the readiness status of each dreadnought. Every system was green. Every weapon was armed. Every machine was waiting. In 3 days, the galaxy was going to learn what happened when you attacked humanity while humanity still had cards left to play. Vexter stood in the command center of his flagship, observing the tactical displays with satisfaction. The invasion fleet spread across several light seconds of space. Over 400 combat vessels arranged in perfect formation. Each vessel was advanced. Each vessel was powerful. Each vessel had been tested in battle against 3 other species. The humans were finished. Vexter could see it in the data. Human forces had retreated toward Earth. Human resistance had collapsed. Human leadership was discussing surrender terms. It was almost disappointing. Vexter had expected more of a challenge. His tactical officer, a Vulcan named Corinth, approached. His crystalline body reflected light like cut glass. "Commander, we are preparing the landing forces," Corinth reported. "The occupation of Earth's primary settlement can begin in approximately 72 hours. "Good," Vexter said. "Prepare the planetary bombardment sequence. We will reduce their major military installations to ash, then move in with ground forces to claim what remains." Vexter moved to the observation window. Below, Earth rotated slowly through space. A world full of resources. A world full of weakness. A world that was about to belong to the Vulcan Confederation. The sensor alarm started with a simple beep. Corinth moved to the sensor station immediately. His movements became urgent. His voice became sharp. "Commander, I am detecting massive power signatures appearing in multiple locations throughout the solar system. These signatures should not exist." Vexter's body went still. Crystalline beings did not show fear easily, but something in his demeanor changed. He moved to the sensor station. The tactical display showed new contacts. Not 3 or 4. Not 10 or 20. 15 massive signatures appearing simultaneously throughout human space. Each signature was enormous. Each signature was moving toward the invasion fleet at velocities that violated every known speed limitation. "What are those?" Vexter demanded. "Unknown, Commander." They are not responding to any known frequency. They are not broadcasting any identification. They are simply appearing. Define appearing. The signatures came online almost simultaneously across multiple locations. They were cloaked. They are now decloaking and moving to attack vectors. Vexter felt something he had never felt before. Fear. The first dreadnought to break. Stealth was designated Unit 1 in the automated defense files. It was positioned at the edge of the solar system, and it moved toward the Vulcan fleet with relentless purpose. The dreadnought's weapon system activated, and the first volley fired. The energy burst traveled through space at speeds that the Vulcan sensors could barely track. It struck the first Vulcan battleship directly at its core. The battleship, a vessel that had conquered 3 worlds and killed thousands of humans, simply ceased to exist. The explosion created a wave of plasma that pushed 3 other Vulcan ships off course. Then the second dreadnought appeared. Then the third. Then 4 more, breaking stealth and moving into attack positions. The human death fleet, built 200 years ago, revealed itself to the galaxy. Vexter watched the tactical display in absolute horror as his fleet started dying. Not slowly, not with honor in battle, but with complete and total devastation. The dreadnoughts operated with perfect precision. Each machine was controlled by autonomous combat systems that made tactical decisions thousands of times per second. Each dreadnought carried weapons that could destroy ships at distances where human weapons could not reach. Each dreadnought was in effect a war god. The first Vulcan wave attack lasted 4 minutes. 23 Vulcan vessels were destroyed in those 4 minutes. 19 more were damaged so severely they could not continue fighting. Vexter screamed orders that nobody obeyed because there was nothing to obey. He screamed commands to attack, but the dreadnoughts were already moving to defend positions. He screamed for fleet repositioning, but the Vulcan ships were too scattered, too confused, too afraid. The second wave of attacks came from a different angle. 2 more dreadnoughts fired simultaneously, targeting the Vulcan command ship formation. Vexter watched as a dreadnought weapon vaporized the entire left flank of his fleet. His communications officer, Kelphus, was screaming something in the Vulcan language. Coroneth was frozen at his station, crystalline body reflecting the glow of tactical displays showing nothing but red symbols. Red symbols meant death. Retreat, Vexter commanded. All ships, full retreat. Jump to fast space immediately. But retreat was not fast enough. The dreadnoughts had anticipated this. 3 more machines positioned themselves to cut off the escape routes. Vulcan ships trying to jump to fast space found themselves facing defensive weapon fire that disabled their jump drives. The ships hung in space, helpless, waiting for the final volley that would end them. The battle lasted 43 minutes from start to finish. When it was over, the Vulcan invasion fleet had lost 219 ships. Destroyed, not damaged. Destroyed completely. The remaining 181 ships were severely damaged, scattered across light seconds of space. No longer capable of coordinated action, Vexter stood in the command center of his damaged flagship, watching the retreat of his fleet. The being who had conquered 3 worlds, who had slaughtered thousands of humans without hesitation, who had believed his forces to be invincible, now understood the meaning of defeat. Aboard the USS Defiant, Admiral Marcus Gray watched the battle on tactical displays. His hands shook as he watched the human death fleet carve through the Vulcan forces like a knife through soft matter. "Is this real?" his communications officer Cole asked. "Is this actually happening?" "It is happening," Gray said quietly. "The old ones built well. They built better than we ever knew." The Admiral moved to the communication console. He opened a channel to Captain Lisa Webb at Installation 7. "Captain Webb, this is Admiral Gray. I see the Death Fleet is operating at full efficiency. Webb's voice came back, steady and professional. All dreadnoughts are responding perfectly to their autonomous targeting systems, Admiral. The invasion fleet is being neutralized. What are your orders? Gray looked at the tactical display. The Vultans were no longer a threat. The invasion had been stopped. Earth was safe. Hold position, Gray ordered. Do not pursue. The Vultans are retreating. Let them go. There was a moment of silence on the communications channel. Admiral, we could destroy them completely. We could end this threat forever. I know, Gray said. But we did not build those machines to be instruments of vengeance. We built them to defend what we love. The defense is complete. The threat is ended. That is enough. As the Vultan fleet jumped to fast space, leaving behind debris fields marking the locations of the dead, the human death fleet held position, silent, waiting, ready to protect once more if needed. But the immediate danger had passed. Humanity had survived, and humanity had revealed to the galaxy that there were some species you simply did not attack, not because they had the most advanced weapons, but because they had learned over 200 years how to build weapons that could not be beaten. The Vultan fleet limped through space, moving toward the deep galactic void where the human death fleet could not follow. Vexter stood in his command center, watching the displays that showed how many ships remained. 181. Starting number, 403. Half his fleet was gone. Half his fleet had been destroyed in less than an hour by machines operated by a species Vexter had believed to be primitive. The commander made the calculations in his crystalline mind. The Vultan Confederation would never recover from this loss. The government would replace him, certainly. The Empire would punish him, certainly. But more than that, the Confederation's expansion across the galaxy was over. They could not fight humans. Not anymore. Not with those machines. Coronath approached the command station. The tactical officer's crystalline body was cracked in places, damaged from the explosions that rocked the ship during the final attacks. His voice was broken. Commander, I have calculated our trajectory. If we maintain current speed, we will reach the void sector in approximately 72 hours. The humans have not pursued us. It appears they have chosen to allow our retreat. Of course they have, Vexter said bitterly. They have won. They have no need to pursue us to the edge of the galaxy. They can simply wait. They know we will not return. Vexter moved to the observation window. Earth was distant now, a small blue point in the darkness. The human death fleet hung in space near the planet, silent and menacing. A reminder of what happened when you underestimated an opponent. Back aboard the USS Defiant, Admiral Marcus Gray received a message from Captain Lisa Webb. Webb's voice came through the communication system, precise and steady as always. Admiral, the Vulcan fleet has entered full retreat trajectory. All vessels are moving toward deep space. We can pursue and destroy them completely if you give the order. Gray closed his eyes. He could see the faces of the dead sailors. He could see the families who had lost loved ones. He could see the colonies that had been burned and looted. He could see all the reasons why destroying the Vultans completely would be justice. But he could also see something else. He could see what humanity would become if they chose vengeance over restraint. He could see what kind of species they would be if they hunted a beaten enemy across the galaxy. His communications officer, Cole, spoke quietly. Admiral, Captain Webb is waiting for orders. I know, Gray said. The Admiral opened the channel and transmitted his order to Installation 7. His voice did not shake as he spoke. Captain Webb, do not pursue. Maintain holding position. Allow the Vultan fleet to retreat. There was a long silence. Webb came back on the line, her voice unchanged, but with something different underneath it. Something like question. Something like doubt. Admiral, with respect, sir, we could end this threat completely. We could make certain they never threaten human space again. Yes, we could, Gray said. But we built those machines to defend what we love, not to conquer what we hate. The defense is accomplished. The threat to Earth has passed. That has to be enough. They killed thousands of humans, sir. Thousands. I know, Gray said. He knew the numbers better than anyone. He had ordered soldiers into battles he knew they might not survive. He had sent people to their deaths, trying to slow down an invasion he could not stop. I know exactly how many died. I carry every single one of them in my memory. But if we chase the Vultans into the darkness and destroy them out of revenge, then we are no better than they are. We are just killers with bigger weapons. Webb did not respond immediately. When she did, her voice was different, quieter, more human. What would you have us do with the Death Fleet, Admiral? Keep them ready, Gray said. Keep them sharp. But keep them as protection, not as a weapon of conquest. The ancestors who built those machines did so out of fear that one day the galaxy would come for us. We proved they were right. But we also get to prove something else. We get to prove that having the power to destroy something is not the same as needing to do it. On Earth, in government offices and military commands across the planet, people heard the news. The invasion had been stopped. The Vultans were retreating. The Death Fleet had revealed itself and saved humanity. But they also heard that the enemy was being allowed to escape. Some people were angry. Some people demanded that the Admiral recall the order. Some people wanted to hunt the Vultans across the galaxy and erase them from existence. Helen Grant, the Secretary of Defense who had ordered the surrender, did something unexpected. She went on broadcast to the entire human population and explained the Admiral's decision. She explained it calmly and clearly. We had the choice between two futures, Grant said. We could have become a species that hunted a beaten enemy across the stars. We could have become conquerors and killers. Instead, we chose to be protectors. Instead, we chose to be what we have always been at our best, a species that values life more than vengeance. The words spread across human space. They were debated and discussed. But ultimately, they were accepted. Humanity understood that their ancestors had built the Death Fleet out of desperation. Humanity also understood that it was time to be better than desperate. Captain Lisa. Webb made one final decision in the control center of Installation 7. She began recording a message that would be stored in the facility's archives, added to the records kept by the caretakers who came after her. This is Captain Lisa Webb. The date marked 14 days, 7 hours, 22 minutes after the activation of the human Death Fleet. Today, we chose not to hunt a defeated enemy. Today, we chose to use power as a shield instead of a sword. I believe this is the decision that separates us from the beings we fought. I believe our ancestors would have approved. In the darkness of space, the Death Fleet held position. 15 machines, each capable of destroying worlds, maintained their vigil around Earth. They were no longer hidden. The galaxy now knew they existed. The galaxy now knew that humanity had teeth that could bite. And the galaxy learned something else too. It learned that humanity was willing to show mercy, even when they had the power to deny it. The Vultans reached the void sector and disappeared into deep space. They would never again threaten human space. They would never again attack another colony. They would spend the rest of their existence running and remembering what happened when they underestimated an enemy. And in human space, life continued. But it was different now. Humanity had awakened from its desperation. Humanity had shown its fangs. Humanity had also chosen compassion. The galaxy would never forget the day that happened. 6 months had passed since the day the Death Fleet awakened. The command center above Installation 7 had been expanded and rebuilt. It no longer looked like a military facility hidden beneath the ocean. It now looked like what it truly was, the center of humanity's future. Admiral Marcus Gray stood in that command center with Captain Lisa Webb. They watched displays showing the positions of all 15 dreadnoughts. Each machine was now permanently stationed, ready to defend human space. No longer hidden, no longer sleeping. "The Vultans have sent another communication," Webb said. She handed a datapad to the Admiral. "They are requesting a formal peace negotiation." Gray read the message. The Vultan government wanted to talk about territorial boundaries, resource sharing, and most importantly, war reparations. The Vultans were willing to pay massive amounts of technology and resources to ensure that the human death fleet did not come after them. "What do you think they fear most?" Webb asked. "Us," Gray said simply. "Before, they feared that we might be slightly inconvenient enemies. Now they feared that we could destroy them completely whenever we choose. That is a far more powerful negotiating position. Do you think we should take the reparations? The technology they are offering?" Gray considered the question carefully. Webb was asking him something deeper than just about resources. She was asking whether humanity would use this opportunity to become powerful through conquest or through cooperation. "We will take what they offer," Gray said finally. "But we will also offer something in return. We will offer them peace, real peace, not the kind enforced by terror. We will offer them stability. And we will tell them that the Death Fleet exists to protect what we have built, not to take what others have built." Webb nodded. She had known that was what the Admiral would say. It was the same reasoning that had guided his decisions since the battle ended. Over the following months, a new relationship developed between humanity and the Vultan Confederation. The relationship was based not on trust, because too much had happened for trust to exist, but on respect. The Vultans respected human power. Humans respected the fact that the Vultans had agreed to accept defeat and negotiate rather than fight to the last ship. Humanity recovered its lost colonies. Humans returned to the worlds that the Vultans had occupied and began rebuilding. On Colony 7, where Captain Patricia Walsh had died, a memorial was constructed. The names of every human killed in the war were carved into stone. 17,342 names. Each one was read at the dedication ceremony. The government discussed what to do with the Death Fleet. Some people wanted to use the technology to build more ships. Others wanted to keep the machines exactly as they were, unchanged. As a monument to human resilience, Lisa Webb and Marcus Gray agreed to keep the fleet as is. They understood that the power of the Death Fleet was not just in what it could destroy, but in what it represented. The machines represented 200 years of human determination. They represented the refusal to surrender. They represented the choice to be better than your enemy. Webb began training a new generation of Guardians to maintain the Death Fleet. Young officers, soldiers, and engineers came to Installation 7 to learn the secrets of the ancient machines. Webb taught them not just how to maintain the systems, but why those systems existed. She taught them the history. She taught them the responsibility. "These machines are not toys," Webb would tell her students. "They are not tools of conquest. They are tools of protection. If you learn to maintain them, you are making a promise to future generations that you will keep them ready, but you will never use them for revenge or greed. Can you make that promise?" Every student said yes. Every student meant it. Admiral Marcus Gray returned to his duties as the leader of humanity's military forces. But the war was truly over. His job became not about fighting enemies, but about rebuilding what had been lost. He worked with planetary governors to resettle populations, restore infrastructure, and bring stability back to human space. On the first anniversary of the awakening of the Death Fleet, a ceremony was held at Installation 7. All the major human government officials attended. Lisa Webb and Marcus Gray stood at the observation window, looking out at displays showing each of the 15 dreadnoughts in their positions throughout human space. Helen Grant, the Secretary of Defense, gave a speech that was transmitted to every human settlement. 1 year ago, Grant said, we stood at the edge of extinction. We believed our end had come. But our ancestors have left us a gift. They had left us machines built with the understanding that one day we might have to defend everything we loved. Today, we remember not just those machines, but the people who built them. We remember the choice they made to build weapons, but to teach us never to use them carelessly. Grant paused, her voice becoming stronger. We also remember the choice we made 6 months ago. When we had the power to destroy an enemy completely, we chose mercy instead. We chose to be the kind of species that uses power as a shield, not a sword. That choice defines us more than any machine ever could. In the weeks after the ceremony, something unexpected began to happen. Stories started spreading through the galaxy about humanity's death fleet. Other species told the stories to their children. Merchants spoke of them in trading posts. Military commanders discussed them in war rooms. The story that spread was not just about a fleet of powerful machines. The story was about a species that had been given ultimate power and chosen not to use it for revenge. The story was about humans who understood that strength without mercy was just brutality. Species that had fought humans before, or had been afraid of humans, began to see them differently. Humanity was no longer the underdog. Humanity was the species that everyone had to respect. Lisa Webb stood in the main observation chamber of Installation 7, looking at the banks of displays. Each display showed the status of one dreadnought. Green lights meant the machines were functioning perfectly. Every light was green. She thought about her great-grandmother, who had been the first caretaker of Installation 7. She thought about all the people in her family line who had maintained these machines, generation after generation, waiting for a day that they never believed would come. The waiting was over. The machines had served their purpose. They had proven that humanity could not be taken lightly. And more importantly, they had proven that humans could be trusted with power. Webb began recording her log for the historical archives, as every caretaker did. This is Captain Lisa Webb. Log entry for day 387 after the awakening. The Death Fleet continues to operate at full capacity. All systems are nominal. The galaxy has learned that humanity will defend itself, and the galaxy is at peace because of this knowledge. Our ancestors built well. They built with the understanding that true power is not the ability to destroy, but the ability to choose not to. I hope the caretakers who come after me will understand this as deeply as I do. In human space, life went on. Colonies rebuilt themselves. Scientists developed new technologies using ideas inspired by the ancient machines. Artists created works celebrating human resilience. Children grew up hearing stories about the Death Fleet that had saved their species. And in the depths of Installation 7, beneath the ocean, the machines waited in silence. 15 dreadnoughts maintained their vigil, ready, alert, waiting for the moment they might be needed again. But for now, there was peace. Not the peace of surrender, not the peace of weakness, but the peace that comes when everyone understands that you have the power to destroy them, and you have chosen not to. The galaxy had learned to respect humanity. And humanity had learned the most important lesson of all, that having the power to do something and choosing to do it are two very different things. The Death Fleet had awakened to save humanity. But in choosing mercy over vengeance, humanity had saved itself.